Two names, two platforms, hundreds of billions of views. When Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo dominated TikTok and Douyin in ways no one expected, the world didn't just react. It trembled. And somewhere in that overwhelming moment, fans began to cry. It started with numbers. Cold, massive, almost unreal. On TikTok, a global battlefield of trends and fleeting fame, one name surged with undeniable force. Wang Yibo, reaching an astonishing 13 billion views, a number that already feels like the peak of success. But then, right behind him, another presence rises. Xiao Zhan, with over 10.1 billion views. Not far, not fading, still powerful, still relevant. And just when the world thought it understood the scale of this moment, everything shifted because the story didn't end on TikTok. It moved to another stage, a platform closer to home, Douyin. And this is where the narrative changed completely, where numbers stopped feeling large and started feeling impossible, where one name didn't just rise, but dominated. On Douyin, the atmosphere was different, more intense, more concentrated. And at the very top stood Xiao Zhan, 240 billion views. Take a moment. Let that number sink in. This isn't just popularity. This is saturation. This is presence at a level where it feels like everywhere you look, he's already there. Every scroll, every clip, every moment. And yet, he's not alone in that sky. Because not far behind, still standing strong, still commanding attention, is Wang Yibo. 181 billion views. Not a small number, not even close. It's monumental. But what makes this moment extraordinary is not who is first or second. It's the fact that both of them exist at a level so high that comparison begins to lose its meaning. Because how do you compare two giants when both are already above everyone else? And then the numbers stopped being just numbers. They became a moment that traveled fast, uncontrollable, across timelines, across countries, across languages that didn't need translation, because emotion speaks louder than words. Clips were shared, screenshots were reposted, edits resurfaced from years ago, and suddenly, fans weren't just looking at data, they were looking back to the very first time they noticed Xiao Zhan, back to the moment Wang Yibo caught their attention. Those early days, when everything felt uncertain, when popularity wasn't guaranteed, when staying meant choosing to believe, even without proof. And now, the proof is everywhere. 10.1 billion, 13 billion, 240 billion, 181 billion. Numbers so overwhelming, they almost blur together. But what they represent is crystal clear. Time spent watching, replaying, supporting. Time spent defending, waiting, hoping. Because being part of a fandom isn't a momentary feeling. It's a commitment. And in this moment, that commitment came back like a wave. Fans began to write things they hadn't said in a long time. I stayed. I never left. I'm so proud. Some messages were short. Others were filled with emotion that couldn't be contained. And then there were tears. Quiet ones. Unexpected ones. Because sometimes happiness doesn't arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrives as relief. Relief that everything they held on to, everything they believed in, was real, not imagined, not temporary, but powerful enough to shape an entire digital world. And in that realization, the celebration became something deeper, something that no chart could ever fully capture. But beneath that overwhelming wave of emotion, there's a stillness, a quiet center that holds everything together. Because while the world reacts, while fans celebrate, cry, and relive memories, Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo remain silent. No public reaction, no acknowledgement of the numbers. And yet, that silence doesn't create distance. It creates meaning. Because achievements at this level don't need to be explained. They don't need to be confirmed. They simply exist, undeniable, visible, and impossible to ignore. And maybe that's what makes this moment feel so different. This isn't about chasing trends anymore. This isn't about proving relevance. That phase is already past. What we're witnessing now is presence. A kind of presence that settles into people's lives so naturally that it becomes part of their daily rhythm. Scrolling, watching, searching, and finding the same names again and again. Not because they're being pushed, but because they're being chosen. Chosen by millions. And within that choice, there is power. Not loud, not aggressive, but steady, enduring, and somehow shared. Because even without direct interaction, even without visible connection, these two names continue to exist in the same emotional space for so many fans. Not as a comparison, not as a rivalry, but as two paths that once crossed and left behind something that time hasn't erased. And maybe that's why this moment feels so complete, because it's not just about what is happening now. It's about everything that still lingers, quietly, softly, but unmistakably present. So here we are, standing in front of numbers that feel almost unreal. Numbers that don't just measure attention, but memory, loyalty, emotion. Xiao Zhan, rising to the very top of Douyin with a force that reshapes expectations. Wang Yibo, holding strong across platforms, proving that his reach extends far beyond borders. Two different directions, two different energies, but somehow, one shared impact. And maybe that's why fans couldn't hold back their tears. Because this isn't just about who leads. It's about witnessing something rare. Longevity. In an industry where everything moves fast, where attention shifts in seconds. To remain, to grow, to dominate is something extraordinary. So when you look at this moment, don't just see the rankings. Don't just see the billions. See the years behind them. The unseen effort. The quiet persistence. The emotions that stayed even when the spotlight dimmed. And maybe ask yourself this. What kind of bond must exist for millions of people to feel connected, to feel proud, to feel emotional, all at the same time? Because in the end, this isn't just their story. It's yours too.